who is a clever devil, today put in your hands a gift from paradise.
Don't be silly.
Boss, why did God give us hands? To grab. Well, grab.
I thought he was incredibly attractive. He had that very masculine appeal. You can't take it away from him, it's just there.
Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Manolo de Palma.
How nice.
He's constantly looking, searching, never satisfied. And he has that in all the work that he does. It's tumultuous and it's turbulent.
I'm a general. Look, here's my pay, a little dust.
He's a man with the humor, with the passion. He loves his life more than anything else.
He was an Indian chief, a Mexican revolutionary, an Italian strongman, and even a Greek tycoon. But more than anything else, he is an international star. Torn between his humble beginnings and his hard-earned wealth, the man behind countless memorable screen characters continues to struggle with his own complex identity. Anthony Quinn was born in the shadow of fury and strife. At the turn of the 20th century, Mexico was engulfed in a bloody civil conflict. Wealthy land barons controlled much of Mexico's fertile farmland, while the people who worked the fields starved. Ragtag armies of indigent farmers organized and turned to outlaw heroes Emiliano Zapata and Pancho Villa to lead them in the fight to reclaim their land. In 1914, Francisco Quinn, a young Irish-Mexican from the poor northern town of Chihuahua, heard the call of Pancho Villa and decided to join his countrymen in the struggle for equality. But the day before he was to leave home, 17-year-old Francisco spotted 15-year-old Manuela Oaxaca. Francisco was instantly taken with a young woman and boldly asked her to join him in battle. She accepted, and on the train to Durango, the two were married.
His parents were fighting for Villa. His mother at his father's side. She would clean his guns, she would cook his meals, she would stitch his clothing for him. Tony Quinn likes to say that he was conceived beneath the bullets of the Mexican Revolution.
Within a few months, Manuela became pregnant and was forced to return to Chihuahua, and on April 21st, 1915, Anthony Quinn was born. With little more than the clothes on their backs, Manuela and her infant son fled to El Paso, Texas, to escape the widespread fighting.
They slept in this hut on this dirt floor. They were extremely poor. She took in wash from the villagers to earn their keep. And she was an extremely proud woman.
After 2 long years, the battle-weary Francisco was reunited with his wife and young son in Texas. 9 months later, little Anthony welcomed a sister named Stella. In search of a better life, Francisco moved his family to the fertile farmlands of Central California. And at the age of 5, Anthony proudly joined his father in the fields.
They followed the migratory patterns, and they'd move one crop to the next, and Tony would work at his father's side picking walnuts or lettuce or tomatoes or oranges. Whatever jobs his father was able to arrange, Tony would be at his side tromping along.
In 1922, the Quinns moved to Southern California and settled in the Hispanic community of East Los Angeles. Francisco found a job at the city's zoo, and his modest earnings provided a stable life for the immigrant family.
Where they lived in the barrio of Los Angeles, the streets were muddy and dirty, and they lived in a shanty shack. And his father painted murals on the windows of beautiful landscapes so that when they looked out, they didn't see the ugliness.
For Anthony, the sun rose and set on his strong, charismatic father, who entertained the boy with tales of his exploits with Pancho Villa. But on a rainy night in 1926, those stories ended. Francisco's Model T car got stuck in the mud, and as the 29-year-old tried to push it out, he was hit and killed by an oncoming car. Devastated by his father's death, 10-year-old Anthony left childhood behind.
You have a little sister, you have a mother who's in her 20s, and you feel a responsibility to be the man, and especially in a Latin household.
Anthony began skipping school to work at odd jobs. For a short time, he earned money as a shoeshine boy, a boxer, and a factory worker. He even entered dance contests, selling the trophies for much-needed cash. But the young man's life took on a new purpose in 1929, when he escorted his grandmother to a church revival and witnessed the mesmerizing sermon of the popular evangelist Aimee Semple McPherson.
I have come to the Mecca of sin to help bring you back, if I can, to the fold.
What drew him to her was her magnetism, her stage presence. She captured and held the audience's attention, and he was drawn to that.
For the next 3 years, Anthony worked to support his family, studied with McPherson, and preached on street corners.
He had an ability and a style and a charisma that could take him someplace. And so he started to find another world out there and explore it. He went forward learning about art, learning about sculpting, learning about books and literature, learning about other cultures.
At this point in his life, he very much wanted to be an architect. And he won this drawing contest in school and came to Frank Lloyd Wright's attention. And he went to see him one day with the hope of landing a job. Frank Lloyd Wright tells him, "You'll never be an architect because you can't speak." He had a small speech impediment.
Heeding the advice of the master architect, Quinn spent $150 on oral surgery and signed up for speech lessons at an acting school. When a fellow student fell ill, Quinn was asked to perform in the school's production of Noel Coward's Hay Fever, and it became clear to him that acting, not architecture, was his true calling. He immediately joined a small theater troupe called the Gateway Players. His positive reviews and striking good looks brought the 21-year-old to the attention of Hollywood heavyweights like Mae West and John Barrymore. Soon, Anthony was getting bit parts and extra work in the movies. But it was a minor role in director Cecil B. DeMille's film The Plainsman, starring Gary Cooper, that got the ambitious actor noticed.
The casting notice said that they wanted an authentic Cheyenne Indian, so he went down and spoke gibberish to these people and passed it off as Cheyenne. He has no idea what he's saying, but he figures how many Cheyenne Indians are going to go to see this picture.
Though his part was small, Quinn was determined to make it believable. In a bravura act, the neophyte actor challenged the powerful DeMille over the direction of a scene.
They did several takes. After each one, DeMille was more and more exasperated. Cut, 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 get rid of this lousy Indian, find me another Indian. Tony broke out of character and said, look, Mr. DeMille, this is why the scene is all wrong. Tony didn't accept the fact that an Indian would stand by embers in a fire and wonder who built the fire, because he would know the difference between a red man's fire and a white man's fire. DeMille thought about it and realized that Tony was right.
The veteran director took the actor's advice, and news of the clash spread quickly throughout the Paramount lot. Quinn's audacious behavior made him an instant celebrity, and even prompted studio star Carole Lombard to offer him a role in her film, Swing High, Swing Low. Within a month, Quinn signed a contract with Paramount for an astonishing $400 a week. He was soon cast in another DeMille film, a swashbuckling adventure, The Buccaneer, starring Frederick March. On the set, 22-year-old Anthony met the director's daughter, Catherine, a 26-year-old actress. And despite their vastly different backgrounds, the two shared a passion for literature and the arts, and their friendship quickly turned to love.
Mother was very simple in some ways, in that she did not like the Hollywood lifestyle. She liked reading. She loved walking the beach. She was very elegant, in a time when elegance was celebrated in women.
On October 21st, 1937, the couple was married in a ceremony orchestrated by the bride's father, the grand showman himself, Cecil B. DeMille. but the occasion was bittersweet for Anthony. He was embarrassed by his humble roots, and he intentionally left his family off the guest list.
He didn't invite his mother, he didn't invite his sister to his own wedding. And it was one of the great regrets of his life that he didn't have the courage to stand up to these people and say, you know, I count as much as you.
The following year, the newlyweds celebrated the birth of a son, Christopher, and they bought a small house on the same street as the DeMille estate.
He spent a good part of his early career really trying to live up to the lifestyle that DeMille had fashioned for himself. He did not want Catherine to work, so she gave up her acting career. He was determined that he would support her just as he supported his mother and grandmother when he was a small child.
Over the next 3 years, Quinn toiled in Paramount's renowned B Unit, appearing in more than 20 potboilers, but working with rising young directors like Edward Dmytryk.
They were a wonderful school for actors who weren't stars, but they did a lot of typecasting in those days. Now, Tony Quinn was a flamboyant Latin actor, as it were, and a Latino was always heavy, unless he was a kind of a funny comic-type Mexican who was a cook or something, but he was usually a heavy.
Although the ethnic typecasting frustrated Quinn, it was his Latin roots that won the 25-year-old actor his first notable role. In 1940, he was cast as a hot-blooded matador in 20th Century Fox's Blood and Sand, alongside two of the studio's biggest stars, Tyrone Power and Rita Hayworth.
Hey, Juan, remember that horse we stole? Remember what happened to it?
What happened?
We ate the horse.
You did? How does it taste?
Excellent. Those were good days. Spent all our time fighting the bulls and each other. We were great rivals, even then.
Blood and Sand was a box office success, and Quinn's performance was singled out by audiences and critics alike. It had taken 6 years for the passionate actor to gain a solid foothold in Hollywood, but no amount of ambition could enable him to protect what he loved the most. On March 15, 1941, during a family visit to the DeMille estate, 2-year-old Christopher Quinn slipped away from a group of children who were playing in the care of a nurse. When the child's absence was noticed, his family began a frantic search that led to next-door neighbor W.C. Field's backyard. To their horror, they discovered the boy floating face down in a pond. Efforts to revive him were unsuccessful, and 2 hours later, little Christopher was pronounced dead. Anthony was so devastated by the loss, he couldn't bring himself to attend the boy's funeral or to mention his son by name. Over the next few years, Catherine and Tony slowly rebuilt their life together. And when daughters Christina and Catalina were born, joy and laughter began to fill the Quinn household once again.
Pop was fun. He liked being a kid. We would write skits. We played charades a lot. He was a consummate practical joker. But the best time Pop had with his children was when he could be one of us. That's what he loved.
By 1942, Quinn had left Paramount and signed with 20th Century Fox, where he appeared in supporting roles in a series of A-list films.
Say, that's Larry Kincaid's gun. Where do you get this? Somebody will take this bullet out of my leg, I'll tell you.
Ah, so he speaks American.
And 10 other languages, my dear. But I don't tell anything I don't want to in any of them.
While Quinn was now working in better pictures, he was still frustrated by the ethnic typecasting that made it difficult for him to grow as an actor or to live through the final reel.
You forgot something. Funny.
In 1945, hoping to land more challenging work, Quinn left Fox and became a free agent. He reunited with director Edward Dmytryk to star as a Filipino revolutionary leader in the independent production Back to Bataan, alongside screen hero John Wayne.
Went back to Baton. He got a little overboard in his acting, oratorical almost, and he kept doing that. So I finally got sarcastic with him, and I really kind of tore him apart, and I made him cry. And the minute he started crying, I said action, and he shot it, and it was so real and so honest. The only actor I've known that you had to keep down rather than up.
That same year, Anthony and Catherine celebrated the arrival of their fourth child, a son they named Duncan. But despite the pride and love he felt for his wife and children, Quinn was unable to remain faithful to his marriage vows, and his numerous affairs created a growing rift between him and his wife.
My mother adored my father. She used to write my father when he was on the road. She'd write him a letter a day, drive to the airport to mail it to make sure it got to him wherever he was, informing him of what was happening in the lives of his children. She loved him.
After a decade in Hollywood and nearly 50 films, studios were still reluctant to cast Quinn as a leading man. He was frustrated and unwilling to settle for a life of supporting roles and decided to try his luck in New York. In 1947, the ambitious 32-year-old moved his family to a modest home in suburban Connecticut when he landed a role in the Broadway production of The Gentleman from Athens. His performance caught the attention of famed stage and film director Elia Kazan. Kazan invited Quinn to join the actor's studio, where the stage novice found himself studying alongside New York's hottest star, the volatile Marlon Brando, and the two soon became friendly rivals. When Kazan asked Quinn to star as Stanley Kowalski in the traveling production of A Streetcar Named Desire, the Hollywood veteran put his own mark on the role Brando had made famous on Broadway.
I had seen Brando do it, who was quite marvelous, and I was curious to see what Tony Quinn would do with it. And I was amazed how he caught the essence of this character, but there was an element that he added to it which I thought absolutely fascinating, and I didn't quite know how he did it. But he had enormous humor in this character.
Pitting the two protégés against one another, Kazan cast the fiery Latin actor as Brando's brother in his 1952 film about the Mexican Revolution, Viva Zapata.
Kazan created antagonism, jealousies, competition between both men. And that kind of actor's energy makes the screen vibrate.
Did you take the land away from these people?
I took what I wanted.
Mama?
I took their wives, too.
What kind of an animal are you?
I'm a man, not a freak like my brother. Get out! Look, I fought as long and as hard as you did. Every day you fought, I fought. I'm a general. Look, here's my pay, a little dust.
In the role of Eufemio Zapata, Quinn was allowed to live a piece of his own family history and bring to life the stories that his father had told him as a child.
Zan encouraged Tony to improvise, and Tony invented many little incidents that came out of a life as a Mexican. For instance, in a revolutionary scene, Quinn is in a roadside. Vaqueros are coming down. Tony, as a signal for his people, picked up two rocks and hit them together to create a warning sound, which is a terrific invention.
Quinn's outstanding portrayal of a Mexican rebel won the 37-year-old an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor.
The wife of Anthony Quinn gets his award from Greer Garson, a supporting role in Viva Zapata.
Suddenly, Quinn was in demand and working in Hollywood's top films, opposite box office stars like Gregory Peck, Errol Flynn, Rock Hudson, and Maureen O'Hara. But Hollywood was still a company town, and the artistic freedom Quinn had enjoyed in New York left him hungry for a new challenge.
He thought that the tilt of cinema had shifted overseas, that the important work that was being done was in Europe. And now that he had a little bit of time to think about of clout as a result of Viva Zapata, he wanted to parlay that into richer creative opportunities.
In 1953, Rome, Italy was the center of the international motion picture industry and was teeming with filmmakers from all over the world. Quinn fell in love with the ancient city where movie deals were made at sidewalk cafes along the famed Via Veneto.
Everybody was there. Everybody. Great actor, great actress, intellectual, prostitute, everybody was in Via Veneto. And Tony in Italy never looked like a stranger. He looked like an Italian. He speaks Italian, and he had no problem whatsoever.
Quinn's family, which now included daughter Valentina, joined him in Rome. At first, the actor starred in a series of low-budget adventure films.
I came to you expecting to find only a conqueror. Yet I discovered a man who has conquered me.
Today, the Romans. Tomorrow, the world.
While on the set of producer Dino De Laurentiis' film Attila, Quinn met an up-and-coming young director named Federico Fellini.
There was buzz around Fellini at the time, and he very much wanted to work with him. And his friends were telling him, to work with him no matter what he offers you.
Fellini offered Quinn the lead in La Strada, opposite his wife, Giulietta Massina. The somber film told the story of a brutish strongman who travels the countryside with a simple peasant girl and forces her to perform in his carnival sideshow.
Here is Zampano.
No, like this. Zampano is here.
When we decided to do La Strada, Fellini said, Tony Quinn is a natural. He go inside of the character of the movie and he became Zampano. He was full of passion. He was perfect. He was perfect.
Hey! Where you going? Hey, come here. Come here. What's the matter with you? Hey, want me to take you back to your mother?
Never before had Quinn portrayed a character of such depth and subtlety, and his powerful performance vaulted him to international stardom.
La Strada made people in Hollywood who previously would not have hired Tony for certain roles to now consider him. It just put him on a different playing field.
Rising from his humble beginnings as a bit player in Hollywood's B thrillers, Anthony Quinn was now an Academy Award-winning international star. But the restless actor with an insatiable lust for life wasn't ready to rest on his laurels. In 1955, Anthony Quinn returned to Hollywood to play a small but pivotal role in Vincent Minnelli's epic biography of Vincent van Gogh, Lust for Life, opposite Kirk Douglas.
An hour before dawn, in the bohemian Paris of the Moulin Rouge, the beginning of a stormy friendship, which ended in violence.
Why don't you shut up? If you have to slobber, don't do it over me. When have you done a stroke of manual labor in your life? Well, I have. I've dug ditches in the stinking heat of the tropics. I worked in the docks in weather so cold my hands froze to the ropes. And I can tell you there's nothing noble or beautiful about it. I did it so I could go on painting. I didn't have a brother to support me.
Quinn's performance as painter Paul Gauguin electrified audiences and won the 41-year-old his second Oscar as Best Supporting Actor. The following year, Quinn was back at Paramount, this time to star in Wild as the Wind, opposite Italian actress Anna Magnani and newcomer Tony Franciosa.
What do you think you can walk up to me like that, huh? Say you're going away? I made you my son. I want to give you everything. My whole place, my own flesh and blood. You can't talk to me like that, Benny. Benny, I love you, Benny. Benny, come on now. Benny, come on. What can I buy you? You want a car? I'll buy you a new car. Benny, I'll build you a house. Benny, what can I buy you, Benny?
Tony infuses his characters with enormous energy. It's usually very visceral, very guttural, and very strong performances with a lot of emotion, which he has normally as a person.
Quinn's passionate portrayal of a domineering widower earned him his first Academy Award nomination for Best Actor. Though he lost to Alec Guinness, Quinn's accomplishments prompted his father-in-law, Cecil B. DeMille, to offer the actor a chance to direct. The master filmmaker assigned his son-in-law the remake of his 1938 film, The Buccaneer. Taking a new approach to the story, Quinn transformed the swashbuckler into a historically detailed account of the infamous pirate Jean Lafitte and the War of 1812. But DeMille abhorred the direction the novice director had taken and recut the film as the original pirate adventure. Although his directing debut was not as positive as he had hoped, it did nothing to detract from his reputation as a versatile actor. His ability to bring authenticity to a wide variety of dramatic roles was now winning the actor choice parts in some of Hollywood's biggest films.
I carry 23 great wounds, all got in battle. 75 men have I killed with my own hands in battle. I scatter, I burn my enemies' tents. I take away their flocks and herds. The Turks pay me a golden treasure, yet I am poor, because I am a river to my people.
Quinn's steady slate of international film work frequently kept the confident and charismatic actor away from his family. It was in 1961, while he was in Italy filming Dino De Laurentiis' production of Barabbas, that 46-year-old Anthony Quinn met Yolanda Adolori, a woman who would win his heart and turn his world upside down.
She was in charge of the wardrobe of Tony Quinn. And Yolanda was a beautiful young girl at that time, 22, beautiful body, Italian, full of life, full of passion. You know, it was not too complicated for Tony Quinn to be alone with Yolanda at that time.
While Quinn had had numerous affairs during his 24-year marriage to Catherine, his relationship with Yolanda threatened to become more serious when the former costume designer became pregnant with his child. On March 22, 1963, Francesco Quinn was born in Rome.
And it was a terrific scandal in America at that time, even in the European press. Quinn with a baby, out of wedlock, his wife. But he disregarded all that media.
At the risk of his career and his marriage, 48-year-old Anthony Quinn announced to the world that he was baby Francesco's father.
He takes responsibility. Simple as that. I mean, is he going to deny a kid? No. He wouldn't even think of it. He's taking responsibility for his children.
Though the news devastated his wife and 4 children, Quinn still hoped to keep his family together. But personal problems would be put aside when Anthony accepted a role in the film version of Nikos Kazantzakis' brilliant novel, Zorba the Greek. It was shot on location on the isolated Greek island of Crete, and the film co-starred Alan Bates and Irene Pappas in the story of a miner who helps an apathetic writer find passion in life.
And you, mister, what do you do?
Me? Well, I'm a writer.
Excuse me, but you look it. What do you write? Love stories?
No. Poetry, essays.
What's that?
Essays.
No, you think too much. That is your trouble.
Tony and I wandered through Crete looking for the characterization of Zorba. We met this incredible character, a tall 6'4" Crete Barbadonis who lived in the hills. Tony absorbed much of the outward physical characters of this man. But Tony did not have to search for Zorba. He was Zorba.
Something about Zorba spoke to him. Again, he was a free spirit. He moved to his own pulse. He was somewhat of a loner. And I think he saw himself in Zorba.
Remember this. If a woman sleeps alone, it puts a shame on all men. God has a very big heart, but there is one sin he will not forgive. If a woman calls a man to her bed and he will not go.
The film's location was an inspiration not only to Quinn the actor, but to Quinn the artist.
Sculpture is his great passion. And in Crete, he fell in love with the trunk of a tree. And Tony carried that trunk, even when the film was over, to Italy. That very trunk, which eventually became a bronze sculpture, Lady of Crete.
Zorba the Greek became one of the most popular films of 1964. It was nominated for 7 Oscars, including another for Quinn as Best Actor. But the actor's loss of the Oscar that year to Rex Harrison for My Fair Lady was overshadowed by more pressing matters at home. In 1964, when Yolanda gave birth to a second son, Daniele, Anthony decided to end his 27-year marriage to Catherine. 2 years later, 50-year-old Tony Quinn married 30-year-old Yolanda Adolori, only months before the birth of their third child, Lorenzo. By the late 1960s, the old studio system had fallen apart, and challenging parts for middle-aged actors were few and far between. After a series of disappointing films and mixed reviews, in 1971, Quinn joined a host of Hollywood's biggest stars and made the move to television. He starred in his own weekly series, The Man in the City, playing the part of a mayor in an issue-oriented urban drama.
We'll have to start on that tonight. Yeah. Hey, it'll have to wait till tomorrow. I've got a Little League ball game with a 7-year-old friend of mine. I told him I wanted to pitch. He's got me warming the bench.
Although critics hailed Anthony Quinn's sensitive and commanding performance, the series was canceled after only 13 weeks due to poor ratings. Good work was becoming harder for the 56-year-old actor to find, and once again, Quinn knew that to survive professionally, he would have to leave the comfort of Hollywood. At the age of 60, after appearing in a series of mediocre police thrillers and spaghetti westerns, Anthony Quinn was a man determined to reinvent himself.
He used to say that he went from a period in his career where he was winning the women to another period where he was winning countries. And after that, he started to have to content himself with smaller and smaller victories. And I think that's what he was facing in the 1970s.
This time, Quinn looked to the Middle East and found a role that would introduce him to a huge new audience.
You're not to rope or drag the prisoners. They have roped us. Cut them loose. I said cut them loose.
In 1976, he played Hamza, an uncle and follower of the Muslim prophet Muhammad, in Mustafa Akkad's production of The Message.
Where's the line? Where's the truth? When it hasn't been spoken yet.
Muhammad is a fraud.
Stand up. Hit me back if you dare. I am for my nephew's religion, and I say what he says. Whoever has the courage to fight, fight with me.
While the film received only limited release in the United States, The Message was an international blockbuster. Quinn was quickly reteamed with Akkad for an even more popular and profitable film, The Lion of the Desert.
Tony sort of eased in to this next phase of his life to where he finally felt comfortable playing an older man. He made these wonderful pictures that stand perhaps as some of the most popular pictures he's ever made internationally, and really helped to shape the legacy that he's created internationally.
I think he is international. And I think it's his masculinity that makes him international. Not so much the films he's done. I think he has that a real man quality, and that just crosses all borders.
In 1978, the versatile actor easily shifted from the Arab world to the Mediterranean to star opposite Jacqueline Bisset in Universal's The Greek Tycoon, a story loosely based on the lives of Aristotle Onassis and Jackie Kennedy.
Will you be nice? Huh?
Let go!
You promise to be nice?
Let go!
Let you go. But you be nice.
I know what you are. You're a clown and a bore.
And vulgar and common and an animal. And you are fantastic. God, what a woman.
Not everybody could play that part. I mean, physically he's got the stature and he's got the power. And he is a charismatic man. And he knows he's attractive to women. He has presence. He has it, and he's always going to have it.
But creating great characters on screen was not Quinn's only form of artistic expression. He was equally at home with a paintbrush, chisel, or charcoal.
Honest to goodness, this is a man who creates constantly. You have a conversation with him, he'll be drawing, he'll be carving, he'll be doing something. His hands don't sit. I mean, he's always doing stuff.
After 50 years in the art studio, Quinn presented his work to the public and revealed himself as something of a Renaissance man. In December of 1982, the 67-year-old displayed his paintings and sculptures for the first time at a gallery in Honolulu. The exhibit featured 65 original pieces by the actor and sold out for $2 million.
It was a great moment in his life, great moment. There were people there from all over. Remember one woman from Australia who bought one of the best pieces I've ever seen, a marble head, for a fortune.
I'm always amazed at really his artistic expression as an actor and as a painter and as a man who's so curious about life. I think that this enormous inquisitiveness is really one of Tony's great secrets that gives him his energy and his lust for life.
Throughout the 1980s, Quinn remained active in cultural affairs, continued making films, and even spent 3 years touring in a musical stage version of Zorba the Greek. But Quinn's intense and energetic lifestyle was taking its toll on the aging actor's health. In February of 1990, he underwent quadruple bypass heart surgery in New York City. At the age of 74, the actor who had beaten the odds to become a star wasn't willing to slow down. Life was a gift to be cherished, and Anthony Quinn was not about to give up a second of it. He wanted more. In 1991, after a successful heart surgery, Anthony Quinn returned to work with renewed vigor. And at the age of 75, he was rediscovered by a new generation of filmmakers. The seasoned veteran was now working with some of Hollywood's hottest young talent.
Tony Quinn is a vibrant and vital living link to old Hollywood. I mean, when you think back to what Hollywood was like in the 1930s and the studio system throughout the war years, he's really one of the few working actors who lived through that in a fundamental way. Younger Hollywood is sparking to that for the first time.
In 1995, Quinn played the patriarch of a Mexican winemaking family in 20th Century Fox's A Walk in the Clouds, starring Keanu Reeves. It was filmed in the vineyards of California, where Quinn once had worked in the fields alongside his father, and the film was a celebration of the traditions he had grown up with.
This is the root I brought with me. A descendant from the root the first Pedro brought with him. All our vines come from this one. It's not just the root of Las Nubes. It's the root of our lives. Now that you are part of all this, a part of us, it is the root of your life. You are an orphan no longer.
He's one of the few actors who still works because he has to work. He won't sit back and not work. He wants to work.
Within 5 years, Quinn had appeared in 7 films and firmly established himself as one of the most enduring actors of his generation. But for Quinn, success at home would not come as easily. His infidelities throughout his 30-year marriage to Yolanda had produced 3 more sons from 2 mistresses. Although his wife had reluctantly accepted Tony's amorous behavior, by 1995 his relationship with the new woman thrust him and Yolanda into a bitter and very public divorce. The turbulent court proceedings tore the family apart. The passionate and free-spirited actor had fallen in love with his former assistant, Kathy Benvin, and the couple had had 2 children together, Patricia Antonia and Ryan. After moving to Paris with his new family, Tony Quinn married 37-year-old Kathy Benvin in December of 1997.
Remember, this is a man who likes to learn. He's getting it right. It's a good marriage. It works. Kathy's very good for him. And they're good together. And he's good with those kids. Pop enjoys being around them, enjoys that energy level that they have. He enjoys his kids.
There's a kind of peace about him. And it's not a matter of just enormous success. It's just a matter of proving to himself that he could meet and match all of the challenges that are given to him. There may be more worlds to conquer for Tony, but the hill doesn't seem to be as steep and as precarious.
Now in his 80s, Quinn spends much of his time at his easel and enjoys the company of his children and grandchildren. Whether he's painting in his villa in Italy or renovating his Rhode Island farmhouse, Anthony Quinn can rest secure in the knowledge that he has lived life with an intensity few could equal and left behind a legacy that will inspire generations still to come. In a career that has spanned 6 decades and more than 150 films, Anthony Quinn's insatiable lust for life has infected his roles, the people he's worked with, and the women and family he loved.
My father's a Renaissance person. He's lots of different things. Extremely intelligent, very opinionated. He is difficult. He's charming. I find him fascinating. Absolutely fascinating person.
He has such a curious mind. He has such a curious spirit. He constantly is discovering himself, and that's his great charm.
He loved life. He loved food, he loved women, he loved everything. He enjoyed life every moment of his life.